Yo, what's going on, everybody? How we doing today? OG back with another video. Today's video I'm chatting about Axie balancing changes. This is something that I put a lot of time into looking at and thinking about. Obviously I play Axie a decent amount. I compete for a leaderboard every season. Season 4 was probably my best season so far, to be honest. If you want to see my credentials, you can check out my Twitter. But to talk about the balancing, I think there's a couple main things that need to be addressed, right? And before I hop into that, I will say that balancing in a game like this is extremely difficult. It's not easy. And there's a lot of opinions, there's a lot of outside noise, and you can see that the Axie team is actively trying to, I don't want to say answer to the community and like cave to the pressure, but like they are trying to give the community ways that they're able to present their ideas and their thoughts for the game in a constructive manner, so then they can take that information back, they can consider it, they can evaluate it, and then they can make the best decision that they think moving forward, right? So with all that kind of said, to kind of hop in and get some of my personal opinions and a little bit of additional context, but I've been playing Axie for we're over 2 years now. Long answer to say basically like I've earned my stripes in this game and the community for that point. I'll start off with the elephant in the room, which has been Topaz. Oh, come on! And I'll also throw Jinx in there too, because I would love to see the numbers. I don't have numbers, but I would argue that the majority of players are playing either Jinx or Topaz. I don't have an exact percentage, but like I said, I would ballpark it. Upwards of 50% of the players in the game are split between these two builds, which is just not a good situation. And ideally, I don't think the players want it to be that way either. I don't think the players all want to play the same build. I think in an ideal scenario, there would be, you know, a handful of builds that are all relatively competitive, and then that way people could kind of pick and choose what their preference is, right? And right now, there's really only a handful of viable builds in each era, each season, and kind of needs to change. That's quite obvious. I don't think I'm the only one that's talking about that, but we need more viable builds. And I think in order to achieve that, I think there's two things that needs to happen. Obviously, Topaz in terms of damage just needs to get scaled down. The fact that it can hit 150 base damage for one is like, it hits more than 2 cost cards. Like, it's just not balanced by any means. However, now Topaz has kind of grown into this spot where it's like, it's its own build because that card is so strong. So you don't want to kill the entire card, because then anyone that has Topaz Axies is super rattled and annoyed, right? So you have to like tone down Topaz to a point where it's like you can at least argue that it's competitive with other aggressive builds. But right now it just blows the other aggressive builds out of the water. Enter Jinx, which is realistically the only counter, because you can't go toe-to-toe in terms of damage with Topaz. The damage output is just way too much. So in order to beat it, you have to counter it, which in this case is flooding the deck with a bunch of curse cards. And in the position that Jinx is currently in, you can really flood any aggressive deck with curse cards. And you can put so many curse cards that the aggressive player is really like, they're paralyzed basically. Like they're locked out, they can't do much, they're dead drawing, and they're just taking more and more damage from bad luck stacks. It's not a good situation. I think Jinx is in an okay spot in some of the earlier eras, like Rare Era, I think it's okay. Epic Era, like obviously it's still a strong build in these eras, but like it's not busted. But then fast forward to Mystic, and you give players the ability to add an extra Jinx from the paralyzing jellyfish, and now all of a sudden this has gone from, this is a competitive build, to this is broken, this is busted. Like I have 25 cards in my deck, you know, like somewhere between 3 and 5 of which are useful cards, and the other 20 are all trash. And they're gonna do damage to me when I draw them. I can't do anything with them. Like I'm just straight locked out, and it's too easy for the player that's playing Jinx or Curse to lock out the aggressive player. I guess to kind of summarize, because I've been talking now for 5 minutes, Topaz damage needs to go down, obviously. And Jinx in Mystic Era, we need to just like clean up Jellyfish, or just like remove it or change its effect or something, because it just gets to a point where there's so many curses that it's not fun, and it's to the point where it's just not balanced. That's why we're here, right? And then I think honorable mention here is Leafy, because Leafy's low-key been getting stronger and stronger season after season, and it won Epic Era in Season 4, and I don't think it's at a point where it needs to be addressed, but I do think it's going to be one of the best builds moving forward into Season 5. If you guys want to debate balancing Leafy, like, that's another topic, but we're not there yet. We have other things to deal with. And to get to some of those other things, I really want to focus on these cards that are unique cards, and they directly impact the outcome of the game, like a significant amount. And I'm talking about Innocent Lamb, and I'm talking about Cottontail, 2 beast cards, surprisingly, and both 0-cost cards, that there's no other similar cards to them in the game. Like, they really are, in a sense, unique, and I would say they're just like so crucial and important to the top meta builds that I think that we need to either balance or just kind of change these cards in particular, because I would say that the majority of meta builds do run at least one, if not multiple copies of one or both of these cards. And it's something that you can use in pretty much any build. You can make an argument for aggro, sustain, whatever you're trying to play, that Cottontail is viable and Innocent Lamb is viable. And I think that having 2 cards that are like so head and shoulders stronger than like what else is available out there is just bad for the game overall, because it kind of forces breeders and players into this spot of like, my Axies have to have Cottontail or they have to have Innocent Lamb. And it's like, well, what if I like bird Axies, you know? And like, I just want to play birds, right? I can't. Or I could play a bird, but I can't play a pure bird because I have to run Innocent Lamb or I have to run Cottontail just to be competitive, which is just bad. Like, I can get into why it's bad, but like, if you have everybody that has to run the same parts and copies of certain particular things, like, it's not good. Obviously, there's cards in all card games that are like strong, or they're really crucial for like, I'm thinking like draw cards. If you go back to like Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon, and I played Pokemon competitively before I got into Axie, so like, I'm thinking cards like Professor Oak, like discard your hand and draw 7 new ones. This is not meta, but like super basic back in the day, like build, just like draw 2 cards. I think Yu-Gi-Oh had something similar with like Pot of Greed, just like draw 2 cards, right? In Axie, we have like Clear, and we have Pink Cheek, and we have all this other stuff. Axie's the only game that your deck doesn't reset when you're drawing cards, which is super weird. And I think there's a lot of potential to improve how draw cards play into the game, but that's like a separate topic. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now, because I was literally saying like, we just have to do something about Innocent Lamb and Cottontail. Like, I'm just going to leave it at that. Said it already, but like, those 2 cards are just too good and they make too much of an impact on the game. So it diminishes the value of all the other parts. And that's really my concern, is that all the other part values are diminished. Like, I don't want to run a specific ear part because I need Innocent Lamb. Like, I have to duplicate something, right? I think they should go both. Get rid of them both. That's my opinion. Get rid of Cottontail, get rid of Innocent Lamb, give them different effects, make them do something different, but like, the fact that they can impact so much is bad. So we've addressed Topaz and Jinx, we've addressed Innocent Lamb and Cottontail, and now I just want to just kind of, I would say like the third area of concern for me is like general cleanup of the game. Something that comes to mind right away. Limit 1 on Indian Star and Twin Tail not working is like, the fact that we just played a whole competitive season with leaderboard rewards with a card that is so strong and it's kind of bugged out and not working properly, like, bruh, come on. You know what I'm saying? Like, that it can happen. Like, that's just like, it's unacceptable. And I get that this is a byproduct of building a game in like while it's live and while people are playing it, but like, from a credibility standpoint, like, it's almost like shooting yourself in the foot if you're going to have something available and then these like game breaking mechanics are, you know, like, they're happening and these bugs are active and they're not being patched. And like, another one that comes to mind, and I hate to say it because I know the team is aware of it, I know they're trying to fix it, but they can't put their finger on what it is, but like, the missing card bug. Like, when you draw a hand of cards and like a card is missing, or you're trying to like search your deck or discard something from someone else's deck and like, you just can't see the card. It's like, I don't know what you guys got to do, but something's got to be fixed about that. We can't be playing seasons with massive game breaking bugs like this. Like, this is, yeah, it's just not You can't do that. Obviously, you guys are your own company. You're going to do what you want to do. Who knows? If you guys make a good product, people will come anyways. You guys will still be successful, but some people will get pissed off and they just won't come back. Yeah, you might be successful anyways, but you can't keep pooching these people off and expecting to have long-term success. It's just not, it's not good. And then the last final point is like, we just need to update cards. We just need to update a bunch of stuff. Like anything that's like 60 damage and has a meh or like a okay kind of effect, it's like it needs to be updated and buffed, because 60 damage card or a 60 shield card, Lotus comes to mind actually, a 50 shield card, like what the Topaz hits for 150. Like literally nothing else is competitive unless it has close to 100 value, right? Like, so like anything, if it's like net value is like less than 70 or 80, it's like this card is completely dog trash. So just like it needs a buff. So it's easy to summarize. It's like if this card is like under net 70 or 80 damage and the effect is not really great, it needs a buff, period, the end. I want to make a mention of Navaga. Like what a dumb card. I want to take a positive approach, but like I have not seen a more complicated and more useless card, I don't know if ever, in a game. Like just make it a regular card. And that kind of ties into my point of like, if the goal of Axie is mass adoption, then get rid of these cards that are like one-offs, that are overcomplicated, and like they really don't serve much purpose in the game. Now, obviously, like Cottontail and Inno, like I was talking about earlier, they have a great purpose in the game. They're very meta. But then a card like Navaga, it's unique, so it falls into the same class of like it's unique. There's only one of it, but like this one just missed the mark. Like it's really just a bad card. It's not good. Every once in a while, there's one player that can break the build, and then you end up playing against somebody who's just recycling their same 3 cards over and over again, and then they clutch the win because they can play 100 cards until their time runs out, because we have so much turn time. Turn time is another topic as well, but definitely room to shorten it. Happy to chat about any of these topics more in depth. Gonna just highlight a couple of the points again. So the main points, of course, Topaz, Jinx, scale them back. Topaz needs to be scaled back more than Jinx does, but I think Paralyzing Jellyfish just needs to get like super nerfed. And then my second point here, we were just kind of chatting about Inno, Cottontail, like those gotta go. They're too strong and they're too commonly played, so just get rid of them so that we have to play other stuff. And then lastly, just like update anything that's like only hits for like 60 or provides like 50 or 60, 70, anything in that range, like in value, needs a buff. Just kind of update it. And then just like remove anything that's like one-off cards that are stupid. The main premise of what I'm suggesting is really that just things that are like way too high up, we just have to bring them back a bit. Topaz, Jinx. And then everything else needs to come up a bit to kind of reach that level of where those builds are at. So like I would suggest like pretty much any build outside of Leafy could benefit from a small buff moving into the next season. And then clean up, like I said, clean up unique cards, just kind of simplify the game in some areas where you can. There's no need for overcomplicated cards. I'll probably have more information or more to chat about and to discuss when we see the balance changes, but I know the team put out a post earlier today about how they're actively working on testing the balancing right now, which is cool, because normally they'll just release it and then we'll test it. The public will test it. There's pros and cons to that as well, right? It's kind of what I mentioned earlier about like, this job is hard. There's no one right or wrong way to do it. Sky Mavis is trying to walk this line of like, we listen to the public, we take your feedback, and then we make the best decision that we think, which is, I think, the best that they can do, right? There's no right or wrong answer. So that being said, definitely want to give credit to everybody who's put time in to trying to fix these things and to improve them, right? Because at the end of the day, the fact that we're talking about this is a good sign. It means that people care. It means that there's desire from the community to influence change. I've seen a ton of people talking about balancing. Anyone that says Axie is dead is clearly just like missing the picture, because the fact that there's people willing to talk about these things is more than enough evidence that it's not dead. I can talk about a lot of things, but it's one of the very few Web3 projects that is not dead. And I would never doubt somebody that is a leader in what they do. And Axie has been a leader in the Web3 space for years now. I would not be shocked if they stun everybody again and they just lead this next bull run. So stay tuned for more stuff. Check out my Twitter as well. I'm giving away a Japanese Axie that's currently, it's like worth $100, 100 USD. So check it out. I guess I should date this because it's June 26th. So if you're watching this after like June 30th of 2023, you probably missed the giveaway already, but still check out my Twitter. There'll be more. I love giving back to the community. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Went a little long, but it's been fun, and hopefully we see some amazing changes for season 5. Still here, still building, still grinding, and let's keep going, baby. Have a great day, everybody. Later.